Welcome to the Biotech Startups podcast by Exceeder. Join us as we speak with first-time founders, serial entrepreneurs, and experienced investors about the challenges and triumphs of running a biotech startup, from pre-seed to IPO, with your host, Jon Chee. In our last episode, Krish shared how he balanced venture investing with graduate research at Oxford, the path that led him from nanomedicine to firm building, and why boundaries became just as important as ambition. If you missed it, check out part 3. In part 4, Krish unpacks the state of AI native ventures, why the core AI layer is being commoditized, and how Defensibility now lives in full-stack applications, and what founders often misunderstand about market fit and real enterprise value. He also breaks down the shift in funding benchmarks, where AI is truly driving impact in biotech, and how the next generation of tech bio companies can separate painkillers from vitamins, all while reflecting on firm culture at AIX, what sets their partnership apart, and why EQ, humility, and tactical suffering are just as essential as technical brilliance.
And so you found your kind of like niche, your kind of focus. Can you just talk a little bit about your I guess how you we talk a little bit how you're differentiated amongst like kind of like these other firms. Can you just talk a little about like what is the state of, like, just to set the table, like what is the state of the market for kind of this type of investing, like AI native, like venture capital, and how you guys are like disrupting that status quo?
As I mentioned, it's going to be fundamentally ingrained in everything we do, right? It's essentially just critical infrastructure at this point. The biggest problem that we're seeing, right, is, and I told this is the YC batch, I was like, everybody's doing the same thing. The problem is with AI right now is that the efficiency gains have not translated to enterprise value, right?
Got it.
Like, oh man, we go from A to B this much faster. I was like, amazing, but like the customer is not seeing that result like transcend into unit economics yet. And that's where we're seeing the differentiation. Like even most recently, we pivoted from foundation investments to application, because the problem is that AI is being commoditized so quickly that the foundation layer is essentially eroded. Like there's no money to be made in that. It's insanely expensive and takes a lot of time, right? And typically market like revelations like that don't happen that quickly, right? Like because the tech takes some time, right? But now the tech rolled out so quickly that you're having entire market sections be obsolete overnight. And this is the problem with like OpenAI or some of the primes, right? Where overnight they can roll out a tooling solution that makes an entire segment obsolete. And we saw that with Epic and medical scribe coding, right? As soon as they rolled out their whole thing, that entire market, which has a zillion companies, is now obsolete, right? Like
so insane.
But now you have to figure out like, now where do we go, right? And this is where like we think that at the end of the day, you have to own your wedge, right? Like if you have the primes that are focusing on the whole pie, just take a slice of it and own it really well, because odds are the prime is not going to have enough market know-how to actually own that, right? And this is what we're seeing, right? Because like a lot of the AI stuff is point solutions, but the only way to own a wedge is if you're full stack, A to Z, comprehensive coverage, and doing something that can be upsold in perpetuity and be super sticky. And this is really hard, right? Because like every time I see an AI company, I'll be like, what's your defensibility, right? And I'm like, if I can rip your backend code off of GitHub 5 different ways, then like this doesn't matter, right? Like, and luckily in healthcare and life sciences, the barrier is healthcare and life sciences.
Yeah.
You're not really worrying about like, I still go to the same diligence motion, defensibility, proprietary data aggregation, patents, all that stuff, right? But on the application side, where it's a wild west, right, and you have a 14-year-old kid with an idea that's going to raise $1 zillion, right? It's more difficult, right? So you're underwriting jockeys at the end of the day, way before they build a horse, right? In pedigree and everything. So yeah, I think with this AI stuff, it's just like there's a lot of froth to it, and the problem is that like we're still waiting for the tail to figure out what the enterprise customer use case is actually going to fundamentally be. But like, and if you look at everything else is pretty bad, right? So like the overall financing market is pretty horrible, right? Like we have high inflation, liquidity problem, substantial liquidity problem. Like I call it the parking lot situation. Too many institutional investors like were assuming that cars would be removed from liquidity and new slots would open up, but we've been in a lock. So those parking garages, like you'll hear from a lot of managers, be like, man, it's impossible to raise money out there. It's like because of the parking lot situation. It doesn't matter how great your returns are, like they're just full. They're fully allocated. Like and if anything, they're seeing losses from 2021 vintage, and that's making them more hesitant, right? So yeah, so I think on that end, like the state of AI is just going to be turned into a commodity play at the end of the day, and it's just trying to understand how do we find defensible playbooks that, hey, like for me, like I always ask the customers, what do you want? And I'll go shopping for it. And that helps me understand like how to invest in businesses that are sustainable in that end. But also like we're seeing like the transcendence on benchmarks, like a lot of our companies don't even raise seeds anymore. So the whole funding paradigm has been shifted of raise a 500K pre-seed, $1 million, and then shotgun to a Series A because your revenue run rate is actually a Series A milestone. And I'll be like, so now you have founders that just skip complete stages of financing, right? They're like, wait a minute, we actually have to retune for this, like because that's why we added Series A's because we had founders that were skipping 8 seeds, and I was like,
Wow.
seed stage fund, and that stage doesn't exist anymore. Like, so how do you adapt, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to see like a lot of the seed stage deals I lead, like 1 to 2 million ARR run rate used to be a Series A benchmark. Now it's a seed benchmark, and now the A's that I'm doing are doing 7 to 15 million in revenue, right? And then the B's are doing north of that, right? So like it's weird to see this moving of the goalposts a lot. As well, but the other concern is like, great, these companies are ramping very quickly, but they're also plateauing very quickly, or they'll run to 10 million very quickly, and then it'll be like, well, the scaled revenue actually doesn't go anywhere after that. That's it. So that's also the other thing of like a lot of investors are seeing that happen right now. And that's a concerning thing because it's like, then you're stuck. So,
Interesting. And I guess like as you are kind of like, I mean, I'm assuming you're seeing a shit ton of deals. Like, what would you say is overhyped and underhyped in terms of like this whole kind of like AI native wave?
And I think the biggest thing is like the founders just don't understand the markets, right? Like from the customer's perspective, right? Because every customer I talk to is overwhelmed. They have 90,000 different AI pilots, right? And I'm always like, pick your 3 that you actually care about, and then I will go back those companies, right? Because fatigue, right? Like the word AI is.
I mean, I'll just pause right here. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, I adopt a shit ton of technology, and I'm like, dude, too much.
Nuts, dude. And like the biggest concern is like, well, if I'm having that problem, then how is the customer that's operating on a way different wavelength, right, gonna be able to respond to this stuff?
Yeah.
Right? So, and
it's almost like a thing where I'm almost like, I'm speaking for me, where I'm just like, I'm not even going to bother to like invest my time to like get like kind of locked into this product. Cause like, I just like assume there's going to be another product that just like comes up that's going to displace this thing. And then I'm like, well, all that time and effort to make this thing work. Now it's just like, there's a new tool that just like, I should have spent my time over there. So I just kind of just like, I'm kind of the paralysis, honestly.
100%, right. And that's the problem that I'm going to see as a great shakeout with these AI companies of like who's actually building a painkiller, not a vitamin for the customer. And unfortunately, like all of them are doing vitamins or just like, or just fundamental mismatch on like how to approach the market. Like the AI people are like, oh, I'm going to disrupt healthcare, and be like, amazing. It takes 16 months to do any type of contract procurement in healthcare. It's a very low, long sling process. And the AI people are like, nope, we're going to brute force it. I'm probably going to have 7,000 customer calls by tomorrow. And I'll be like, amazing. Let me know when none of those work. Right?
Yeah.
So there's still a fundamentals element to this. It's like, are you building what people actually want? And a lot of the founders are just assuming that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wants all these efficiency gains. Like it's funny, like in legal tech, right? Employers are not incentivized by efficiency because they're getting paid by the hour. If you're like, right, you can documents. They're like, I don't care, man. Like,
yeah.
Right. And that's like those fundamental nuances, right? Like you need to understand that. Otherwise, if you built a legal tech company around that assumption, right, then you realize nobody cares. Like, And that's what you're seeing a lot in these spaces, right? And I'm finding the differentiators are the operators that understand that and then are building something that the customers is salivating over that actually want. And there are very, very few things that I find customers get excited about, like big pharma and healthcare folks. Like they get excited about nothing. If you're excited about the one thing, like I'm gonna listen to that signal super hard.
Yeah. That's so. I guess like what there's a lot of we've been hearing in life sciences that like AI is going to change everything. Like, where do you think it's actually making like a material impact and actually exciting the large pharma? I mean, just like maybe the community at large.
I think Recursion and Citro and everybody did a dog shit job in showing any of this stuff matters, right? There was a reason why I backed in Silico instead of all those other companies, because at the end of the day, biotech is a drug business, and the AI people were assuming that it would become something else. And I was like, no, like the reason why we're having this biotech winter is because 2021, everybody invested in platform and forgot that growth stage investors can only underwrite assets. Like that's it. Like there are no growth stage tech bio investors. So you can have the best fucking AI on planet Earth and have a great, services model, but you'll be valued as a CRO. You won't be valued as a tech company. And I think that was like something that was like, it's going to revert to the mean. Everybody's like, nope. We're going to build $10 billion platform companies with no pipelines. Like, that doesn't work. And I think everybody gets the pharma software budget confused with the drug budget. The software budget is $10 million. The drug budget is $10 billion. Like it's a totally different thing. So I think the biggest thing in tech bio, like what I'm excited about is, yes, in Silico, we made the first AI developed drug in human trials. Why? Because like we took an evidence-based first principles basis to building a massive data set that we could actually train that was heterogeneous, trained on patient responder data, right? And everything to know that, like, with the highest degree of certainty that this drug is probably going to perform exceptionally well. So turned it from a drilling for oil discipline into a predictive discipline, right? Which is very cool. But, like, how many playbooks are there out there? Like, two. Like, then you have all the other AI bio companies, like, and also we've been using AI biology for like 20 years.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, this has been around.
But the problem is that all these AI companies are using the same crap data, and then they're just screening stuff into oblivion. And pharma does not care at all about that. All they care about is better direct candidates and getting into human trials. If you're not doing that, then it's like totally lost. But like, all the AI are like, oh my God, we found this new coupling thing. And it'll be like, amazing. What's your line of sight to clinics? They're like, 10 years from now. It's like, come on, like that's not showing how you can do better, faster, cheaper on drug development. So all the companies I backed, it's like, great, we have the AI native architecture and we call it lab in the loop, which is amazing because you can build a closed loop system that's constantly testing and churning out drugs, but you have to have a pipeline. And the other thing is like, a lot of the tech bio founders forgot that your lead program defines who you are as a company.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter anything else you do. And they would pick random stuff, like, right? And then you'd be like, oh, I picked Alzheimer's or, ALS, do like stuff that's super gnarly and hard to do. And then be like, why can't I raise money? It was like, because you picked the wrong lead, man, and nobody told them about that. Like, so it's tough.
Rough out there. Like, I think, we are still like digesting like the 2021 kind of what you described, just like where things kind of just like I love how you're just like the people didn't realize that like platform companies more resemble like a CRO than like, if you have like a pipeline candidate that can get into clinical trials. And it's like, but I think, what we're seeing right now is just kind of like working through this like indigestion like working its way through that parking lot problem that you're talking about. One way or the other, the parking lot is going to have to empty out at some point in time. It might not be pretty, but it will have to clear out eventually. And I guess like as you're like kind of thinking about this, you've kind of had a very I would say wide-ranging experiences from like academia to like a crash course in venture. And like, and when you think about this, like, where you're at right now, like what's the most fun and like least fun of like being on the job as a venture capitalist?
I think it's like hyper glorified of like everybody is like, I mean, I appreciate like every time we hire someone, I'm like, oh my God, that seems so cool and everything. I'll be like, a lot of it is just like being a fund manager, right? All you're doing is portfolio management. Yeah, sure, you get the 1% of the time. That's the super sexy stuff. And I think for me, like, I take it a step further where like I'm there for every patient, for every drug I've worked on, which is a little bit different because most VCs are not actually practicing in the field that they're in, like as as a scientist or engineer. But yeah, I mean, like, so like, yes, it's great to meet founders and everything, but like I'm a yes person in a no business. Like, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
saying no 99.8% of the time, right?
Yep.
It's kind of soul crushing at the end of the day. At the end of every week, I get 50 pitches. I'm saying no to 49 and a half of them. Like, right, so, and you're just doing that for forever, right? So I think the hard thing is like, yeah, sure, it's cool to get that energy and meet the founders, but also like it gets to the point where you're like, oh my God, another pitch or whatever. So it's hard to not be. I think you'll see a lot of managers become quasi cynical in the future because they're just like, ah, man, here's another terrible idea. But the cool part though is like, yeah, it is great to be there when you're there for the breakthroughs, right? Of being like, wow, this has never literally been done ever. And for some reason, like we turned a fiscal asset class into an impetus for doing all the crazy stuff in the movies. Like it's wild. Like it would be like even when I look back and I'd be like, how the did we do that? Like how
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
you be a part of like human history? That's the cool part. But like that part is typically overridden by the Excel sheets, portfolio modeling, and
Yeah.
this
Oh
is
no.
amazing money, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. As you're thinking, it sounds like similar to harmonics, you came in and kind of like Play-Doh, you guys are building the plane as you're flying it. Can you talk a little bit about like the firm building aspect of like building a venture firm, at AIX? Like what is the firm that like you guys are aspiring to be? And kind of like what is the firm culture like and what are the partnership dynamics like?
It's a great question. So I mean, like our thing is to be the go-to firm for AI native founders, right? And like, which, yeah, it's great in practice, but like to actually have the track record behind it and everything is a different thing. And I think that's the most important thing because everybody's saying, I want to be this in AI. It'll be like, amazing. Show me the track record and zip, so I think like, for us, like, and to do that, right, like, it's not that hard, right? Because you're not raising an insane amount of money. All you're doing is just sticking to your guns and making sure that you're backing the best jockeys that are building the just best horses and then going from there. Because you really only need, it's still a power law business. One of those 35 positions we make is going to go to the moon while everything else does hopefully decent, but like isn't like a massive return. But like, yeah, and for us, it's just pushing the limits on next-gen compute architecture for scientific discovery and innovation. I think that's probably the biggest thing of like, and that's why I vibe so much with this is like, great, you can produce alpha, but like, what is ultimately the net benefit for humanity, right? And I think fundamentally showing that on a prescriptive basis shows that yes, you can be a financial manager, but you can actually quantitatively define how you're improving the world through patient outcomes or whatever. So it's that hybridized modality of like, great, it's not the crazy evil AI people, because I know what the one for like blockchain to crypto to AI now, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
great, what's the next thing? I remember when Web3 was a thing and all that other stuff, right? Like, and that was my thing of like, I wanted to be at the firm that is the cornerstone of that, not just like something that's floating on to the next thing, right? I think now they're calling climate tech existential resilience or whatever, because like, and it's just like, I don't want to be like in that,
Yeah, yeah.
where I'm just going under a different wrapper based on the flavor of the.
And like, compared to like, when you're thinking about what makes you guys like when it comes like these deals are competitive as hell. Like how like when it comes to a founder that, has a bunch of options, like why do you think AIX is like the best choice for a founder approaching you guys?
I think it's EQ, IQ, right? It's funny how I'm like, it's not that hard to be technically proficient and not an asshole, but for some reason of this business, that seems like Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Wild, it's insane. Like, I don't know if it's just the Midwesterner in me, but I'm just like, it's not that hard to know what you're talking about. and then just be nice to people. And it's funny how that's 95% of winning around, I will honestly tell you. And then, yes, it does help to have the pedigrees and the background and everything, because I could be like, oh, I invested in this company. And most of the time, the founder would be like, holy, like, yeah, I want to work with you guys on that. But I mean, like, we're there to actually, and I think this is unique, that like, I can actually build what the founder wants. And it's like going a step further from like, not like building the company, but actually the science part of it. So like, like we have one of our companies, like we want to develop the first foundation models of the human immune system. Like, amazing. This is how we do it. Like, right. And I don't think there's like anybody on Wall Street that would be like, yeah, this is how you do it. And then actually like do it. Like, I mean, half the time I'm actually coding the actual technical breakthrough of the company, like for fun. Right. And I think that's like when you take it a step forward, that's like even going beyond just operating. It's like a next level of like, you are the person that actually does this. We should probably do that. And like, all the Series A's, like we were leading Series A's with tiny baby checks, like $6 to $8 million checks, right? How, like, and I remember the first batch of A's I led, I was like, it's going up against, every single tier one and, Peter Thiel and everybody to get the founder to produce the post money from 200 million down to 70 at a post, and then let us lead that round with the tiny check. Right. Oh man, like that was even an exercise for me. I was like, this is gonna be so bad. They're gonna be an idiot. Well, hey, I'm not gonna fucking do it. And yet it's worked 5 times now. And that was the realization of why we needed to raise a larger fund, because we're like, wow, we can win all the Series A's, even with the tiniest, dinkiest check on planet Earth, right? Like, you're going back and I'll be like, oh my God, I just led a Series A with a $7 million check. I was like, I remember on Peter Thiel and people were like, you're missing a zero. You mean 70 million you're going to lead this round with? I was like, no, like,
Yeah.
so it's a good problem to have. But I think like at the end of the day, you're just successful being, just being normal and just like knowing what you're talking about. Like you just do that, you'll be fine. But for some reason, people have to stratify it each way. Or just like I find that the other thing too is like I'm just the same person in the office as I am out of the office. And there is no like dissonance here.
Yeah.
And I find that when you're comfortable with yourself, a lot of other people get comfortable with you, right?
Yep.
That makes it easier. Like, I don't need to go from, oh, am I a normal dweeb outside of the office? I'm a dweeb in the office and out of the office.
Okay.
And a lot of founders just vibe with that because they're like, great, I'm also a dweeb in the office and out of the office. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's like I feel the exact same way about like, it is not that hard to just not be an asshole. like, and it goes a long way. Like it really goes a long way. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice. And I think you're exactly right. I think unfortunately, financial services tends to put you into that bucket. But if you can like just not be, that's a competitive edge, to be quite honest, because life's too short to be working with assholes, to be quite honest.
Right. And with these founders, if you're going to be stuck with a VC for up to 10 years, right, like a lot of them get in bed with the wrong person. And it's funny when I tell LPs that, and I was like, how do I explain this intangible of just being normal? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I do truly think that's like, a massive edge. And also too, like is this funny because, for the leasing business for Exceeder, we're super weird because we only do lab equipment. But everyone in the leasing business is just like, huh? Like, because they're usually like industry agnostic. They're like construction equipment, planes, cars, trucking, whatever. We'll do it all. Lab equipment too. But for us, we found that it's just like like having come from the bench and actually knowing how to like use the equipment that we're leasing out is like, the scientists want to work with folks like, you know how it is. Like most scientists and academics are just like, stay away, business people. like let's just stay away. But like, it's kind of this thing where you're aligned. There's like this like alignment, and you can be value add above and beyond, the check. it also goes a long way in addition to being nice. So I love that, that kind of strategy.
100%. I feel like if you're a master of your craft, you should be able to explain anything in a way that's conducive for everybody to understand, right? Like, and that's the funny part. That's how I actually know if somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. We go immediately into the paper and whatever, I'll be like, great, explain it, not in a way that's baby food, but in a way that could be framed for everybody to understand. That takes even a higher order of intelligence to do, right? Beyond just remedial, okay, let me explain. And I think that's why most people are turned off from STEM, right? It's just explained in a way that's conducive for them to understand or learn, right? And it's very segmented into one type of, like, this is it. This is the frequency that you need to understand. And you don't, that means you're dumb, right? And then like, actually, the frequency is not tuned correctly. So,
Yep.
you know,
Spot on. And like, as you're looking forward, like 1 year, 2 years, what's in store for you and AIX?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us is just business as usual, man. I think, we move on to Fund 3 and we'll be fortunate enough to hire some additional really cool rockstar principals join the team. But this is kind of it. It's like, this is kind of like when you hit the, like you built the mothership out, like, okay, this is it. This is our identity for the next 10 funds, right, of us doing this. And I think just continuing to hammer down and unbacking, really great technologies that actually are doing good for the world, but also like, I think for us, like continuing to practice our craft, right, of not, because there's a very fine line, because a lot of VCs are not AI experts and not a lot of AI experts are VCs, right? Like, you kind of got that weird, when you're in that ebb and flow right in between both of them where you can practice it and then be an allocator, it's a very unique, weird spot to be in. So I'm excited for, like for us, like my side of the fence, I want to have 100 new cures for 100 new diseases over the next decade at the firm. And I think
Hell yeah.
So it's kind of stuff like that. And then just, just staying low key, right? Just staying away from being a dick and then
yeah.
just doing the same thing, I mean, so I wish I could be like, oh man, we're going to do some Tony Robbins and talk about how we're going to IPO on Pluto or something. I was like, I'm pretty just fucking normal.
I love that. And I mean, Chris, I've had a blast. You've been so generous with your time. And I love, like, it's a breath of fresh air to be normal. To have someone who kind of leans into that rather than kind of like, because whenever we hear, especially in the media zeitgeist, like I said, venture can be very loud and, it has a kind of, it could suck the air out of the room, but it's a breath of fresh air when you're just like, no, I'm a normal dude. I'm interested in a lot of things and I'm a geek and I'm that way inside and outside the office. Which is, I think, again, a breath of fresh air. So thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story. And, I've learned a lot, all the way through this. And in a traditional closing fashion, we have 2 questions for you. So first, would you like to give any shout outs to anyone who supported you along the way?
I mean, I would love to give shout outs to both my grad school advisors, Sujata Bhatia and Abby Banerjee at Harvard and Oxford, and all partners too, Sean, Richard, and Chris, and Anthony, and Peter, and all those folks for giving me a shot, and yeah, I think those are the good folks. I think if you're surrounded by good people, good things happen inevitably, right? So,
absolutely. And last question, if you can give any advice to your 21-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh man, don't drink that much.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to take Tums in the future, so
yeah,
take it easy on the tacos.
No pain, no gain, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I would be like, don't be afraid of failure. I mean, that would be honestly it, because I was absolutely terrified of it, and I was doing everything in my power to avoid it. And I was just like, when you embrace it in a way that actually, if you're actually constructive about it, it ends up just being kind of like you're falling down the step, but you actually learn how to climb the next 2. Like, and nobody told me that. Everyone was like, oh yeah, failure is great. You just got to suffer and do it. And I was like, but this is horrible. Like when you're in it, when you're in that part of the montage they skip in the 3 years of where you're just suffering,
Yeah.
Like you can listen to as much Katy Perry as you want, but you're like, man, like give me a break here.
Yeah.
I think as long as you're actually tactical with it, I would say tactical suffering, you know.
Tactical suffering. I love that.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
so.
No, that's I think too I could see myself like at 21 just being absolutely terrified of failing as well. But I think, like you said, like if it's only, if you know where the bottom is and everything is up and gravy from there, it's only truly liberating. And it leads you to really, interesting places. So, fantastic advice for, anyone out there. Well, Chris, thanks again. This has been super fun. I can keep doing this for hours and hours and hours with you, but I realize you're a busy guy. So thanks again for, being so generous with your time.
Absolutely. I'm super appreciative and grateful for the opportunity, John. And I appreciate you letting us through the channels to nerd out with fellow super freaks in the world. So.
Yeah, fellow super freaks. Hell yeah. The next time, let's do this IRL, rather than the Zoom thing, and let's grab a cup of coffee.
100%, man. Anytime. I'm in South. So,
I'll see you soon.
Cool. Righteous. Thanks so much, John. See you.
Thanks for listening to our 4-part series featuring Krish Ramadurai. From his early days in Chicago to navigating academia and venture capital, Chris's story shows how curiosity, conviction, and an appetite for challenge can shape an unconventional path in biotech investing. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. Join us for our next series featuring Amy Hay, Chief Business Officer at CTMC, a joint venture between MD Anderson Cancer Center and National Resilience, accelerating cell therapy development from discovery to clinical translation. Before joining CTMC, Amy served as Global Head of Oncology Strategy Initiatives at Varian, a Siemens Healthineers company, where she launched Oncology as a Service, OAAS, a global platform integrating medical technology, clinical solutions, and digital services to expand access to advanced cancer care. Under her leadership, Varian forged partnerships with Ayala Health in the Philippines and Christus Health in the US, generating more than $75 million in new revenue within the program's first year. Amy is also a founder, having founded Evolve International, a healthcare strategy firm advising leading cancer organizations. With a master's in healthcare administration and deep experience spanning oncology strategy, partnerships, and innovation, Amy's career demonstrates how collaboration and execution can accelerate the future of cancer care, making this a conversation you won't want to miss. The Biotech Startups podcast is produced by Exceeder. Don't want to miss an episode? Search for the Biotech Startups podcast wherever you get your podcasts and click subscribe. Exceeder provides research labs with equipment leases on founder-friendly terms to support paths to exceptional outcomes. To learn more, visit our website www.exceeder.com. On behalf of the team here at Exceeder, thanks for listening. The Biotech Startups podcast provides general insights into the life science sector through the experiences of its guests. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from the podcast is at the user's own risk. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not the views of Exceeder or sponsors. No reference to any product, service, or company in the podcast is an endorsement by Exceeder or its guests.